Magic has been so good to me. I started when I was 8 years old and I never stopped. It's taken me around the world several times. And I'd like to show a few things this evening, when I got them, where they came from, and who made them. And this will all be antique magic. I'm antique myself, so when I came out of service in 1945 from Germany, I came back home and I went to Los Angeles to audition for National School Assemblies. And I got the job, but while I was there was a magician performing at one of the big hotel theaters in Los Angeles. And I thought, I've just got to go see this, because I'm from a little place up Montana and I've never seen anybody famous. So I went to see Blackstone, his old show that he had, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And I had got a seat down close to the front by accident. Somebody didn't show up. And he needed someone to come up on stage, and I ran right up. I just had to stand beside him. The idea was Blackstone, you know. And I tied him up with ropes, and he got out. And I happened to see how it was done. And years later, I put that effect into my own show, many years later. The next day, I went to Thayer's Magic Studio, and I met Floyd Thayer, Bill and Milt Larson, and Bill Sr. Larson. And while I was there, I had to buy something. Now this would be around 1945, 46. And I got an old trick that's called the vampire block. Now, why I wanted to show this is because theirs was very famous for painting a lot of their things a lot different than other companies were. What they do is they would paint the eyes with a very slow drying black paint. And when that was thoroughly dry, they'd come back with red paint and paint it on fast. And that would dry fast, and then it would crinkle. And that's how theirs came up with this idea of a two-tone color on their equipment. And of course the vampire block itself, as you can see, we'll place it in. And the only way to kill him is to put a stake right through his heart, like so, and hold it. However, he was tricky, you know, and once in a while, he could escape, showing the block completely empty. This is a piece that I treasure. I have no idea what they're worth today. I know there are other versions of it on the market, but I thought it might be just fun to show. And while I was in theirs, I asked him about, you know, the milk pitcher. The old-fashioned milk pitcher was quite large. I had that one. But then they came out with a smaller one. But, you know, carrying that thing around was a mess. He says, oh, we've got a glass now. Daniel's glass. A tumbler. I just brought it along because this was so easy to carry. You didn't have to have the big milk pitcher, and you could still pour. But I didn't use milk for one reason, because Moo, that they sold for milk, stained these glasses terribly. So I used to use Kool-Aid. And what I like about this one is that you could take the whole center out of this. It could be washed and dried. And when you put it back in, it would lock, so it would stay in. And that is a tumbler from Daniel. Now, I went out on the road for the schools, and of course, being new, they gave me the worst possible places to work. In January, February, March was North Dakota, South Dakota, Colorado, Wyoming, and I mean many nights it was 50 below zero. We even had to plug our cars in at night to keep them warm. Through the radiator, you could have a plug in a motel or whatever, you could plug them in to keep them from freezing. We played a little town in South Dakota called Mitchell. Now Mitchell was known because it was corn country, and they had a huge big building, and in the spring they decorate the whole outsides and pictures using corn. And it was called the Corn Palace. I've been there many times. But there was a magician who lived there that I wanted to meet. So I went to his home, and his name was Weller. And he was one of the early people to put out a collapsible rubber beer bottle. And he put out hot dogs and eggs. I don't know whatever happened to the bottle. I think it finally just fell apart. I had bought them. But he had 3 eggs. One was pretty solid. One you could crush up and it would open immediately in your hand. And the third one, which became the most famous, was called Egg on a Fan. And I still have that particular egg in the original box that it came from with Weller on it. The idea was you took a piece of tissue paper, tore it up, and you threw it on a fan. And as you fanned, the paper turned into an egg in very, very slow motion. So I can't actually do the thing because I don't have a fan. But tearing up the paper, I would put the egg with it and put it in my hand. And just by bouncing it a little bit, you might watch this. As the egg comes back, it takes an actual shape to it. Look. All the way. All the way. First paper egg. And there is the egg.
Very cool.
Now I can't pick it up because it would all go back together small. But this was very famous. I think they sold for like $3. I saw one on eBay not so long ago that they still had some of these, and they were $25. But I also learned a trick about these. Anything that was rubber like this, if you wanted to keep it, put powder in it, face powder, and they would stay together. And a lot of the rubber pieces that I have at home, like the chicken and all those rubber pieces, I just put talcum powder inside, and that keeps it from, disintegrating. Now, after working all of that, I finally got onto the ships, luckily through working the castle, and started traveling. I spent 10 years full-time on the large cruise ships. And the first time I went to Japan, Suds came to me and says, I understand they have a fabulous place over there where you can buy silk. And he says, I wonder if you could get me some while you're there. And I said, well, Arnold First is a friend of mine, and he has been there, and he's written all the instructions on just how to get there on the subway, because you're not going to be able to understand the stations unless you speak Japanese. He gave me $500, and he says, get whatever you can. So when I got over there, from the ship, we called this shop, which was in the outskirts of Tokyo, so that I could go out there and they'd know that I wanted magic silk, because they sold other silk too. So when I got out there, I had a picture of me on the ship, with the 6-foot dragon silk. And I showed that they knew what I wanted. So they brought out all this silk, tons of it. I couldn't believe it, the stuff they brought out. I wanted 18-inch silks. You had to buy them in lots of 10. There'd be a thread through them. So, and I brought about 7 or 8 different colors, and I got maybe 2 or 3 white, red, and the blue, so you'd have plenty of them. And at that time, they were selling for about 50 cents a piece for 18-inch silks. Their blendos, their big blendos, was $14. I mean, it was amazing. And they have just come out with some large card silks. And they had the Jack, Queen, and Jack, Queen of Diamonds. And this is one of them.
Wow. Nice.
60 cents. Oh. When they hit the States, they started at $15. I don't know what they went. And he says, we made a joker, but it didn't sell, so we got rid of those. I said, you wouldn't have to have just one, would you? And they went back and they brought me out one. They said, here, just take it. So I have a Joker silk that probably a lot of people have never even seen. But I thought I'd bring it tonight just to show that they actually did have a Joker silk. Now, while I was there, they said, we've just come out with a beautiful peacock silk. And I said, well, remember, these were 60 cents. They brought out a peacock silk. This was $8. I'll give you 24 cents. When that hit over here, they started out at $35 for these.
I'll pay you 35.
Yeah, 40. I brought half a dozen of these. Anyway, with all the silks that I bought,
You might as well go to 50.
and $500 worth for such, he ended up making over $4,000 selling those $500 worth of silks because they were so much more expensive. They had a heavier silk that I just fell in love with. I said, I just got to have this. It was a dragon, but I thought this would be nice maybe to use someplace in the show. This was $5 for this.
Wow, nice.
And I thought, well, I have to have it. I have probably 150 silks like this in my home, all of rice of silks and everything. Then, while I was on the ship, I wanted to show this picture again because this was in the show card showing, you know, what I do in the show. And a couple came aboard and taking a cruise, and they saw the picture, says, oh, we've got to see the magic show. So the next night they came to the show. The next morning they came to my stateroom, and they said, oh, we love magic, and we just want to let you know how much we enjoyed you using my silks. So it was Thelma, the Rices, Harold Rice, and his wife. We became very close friends. And after I got home, or that he came home, he started sending me some of his little booklets. And he'd write in there, Jack, here's something I think you could use. And he'd sign it to me. I still have those. And I treasure them. Anyway, that was the silks routine. Now, in Japan, I noticed I collect playing cards from other countries. I have over 700 decks. Some of them are gold leaf, some of them are very old, 200 years old, some of them. But while I was in Yokohama, I went into their gift shop, and they had an unusual deck of cards. I said, I've just got to take these because they look so darn nice. So I brought this deck, and they're bowling pins. But what I really liked about it is when you make a fan out of them. That makes a very unusual thing. I wish I'd have brought a dozen of these because everybody, oh, I'd love to get something like that. Of course, this was back in the 70s, so, you know, it wasn't going to work out too well. While I was doing the North Cape cruises and stuff, I had a chance to do my show for the Magic Society in Oslo, Norway. They were having the FISM convention. And so they asked me if I would come in and do a show early because I had to get back to the ship. So I did, and they gave me a gold medal for showmanship because they wouldn't give the medals out until the end of the convention, but I couldn't stay that long. And the next trip, all the magicians in Sweden came down to meet me at the ship because they'd been in Norway. And they had a big sign, welcome Jack Evans. I was absolutely flabbergasted. So I went in and did a whole show for them too, which was a lot of fun. Now, to close this evening, I have an old effect that is called Silks Through. And it was probably one of the nicest 20th century routines in silks. And I'll bring this thing up here so you can see it. Woo. Now, these 18-inch silks are some of the ones that I got in Japan. So you can see it was a nice routine. I just want to make sure that I don't run out of time here. Well, I've got about 18 inches left to go. Okay, we'll go with that one then. Now, if I were to take the center silk, I know this isn't going to go into a thumbtail, but I have several different things like a lemon, an egg, whatever. But tonight it would be probably just a ball, you know, so I could have fun with that. But this, I think, is absolutely beautiful and one of the very nicest routines that I've ever seen. Well, as I said, magic has been very good to me, and I was just thrilled to be able to show a few things about my life and then touring around the world.
Yeah!